I'm Diana Coombe. My maiden name was Sexty. My father was Ivo Errol Sexty, and when the war commenced, World War II commenced, he was down to Sydney to try and register to go away, join up with the army. And he wasn't allowed because he was too old. He was 50 and he had had a stroke. So he said he had to do something for the defence of Australia. So they said they would be in touch, and eventually they made him the chief observer of a spotting post at Wamberal, New South Wales. And his occupation was that he had to log every plane that flew over Wamberal, how many engines, etc., and then that was reported to head office down in the depths of Macquarie, which was a RAF plotting base. After a short time, the Japanese started coming along the coast and were quite obvious. One night I can remember, it was a Sunday night, and we didn't have transport by trucks going from Sydney to Newcastle taking goods. It used to be the cargo ships, and they used to make a habit of going along on Sunday nights from Sydney to Newcastle along our coastline. One night I remember vividly seeing the flares from the ships. It was a submarine attacking our cargo. I can remember this because my mother wanted me to come in and go to bed, as I was only quite young, and I said, "No, Mum, I want to watch this," and because this report was coming to my father about the cargo ship being bombed. So that was one incident, and then I think it was after that incident where they decided that our spotting post also had to cover the sea in all shipping. So after that, I can remember my brother and I, he used to go down and find actual camps and where the Japanese had landed, and it was pretty close to Foresters Beach, between Wamberal and Foresters Beach, and he used to bring home some of their, and we often shared a chocolate bar that had been left behind. So that was from the Japanese camps there. My brother said that he'd found a couple of camps that were there actually on different occasions, and that's where they had landed. On this particular day, my half-uncle, James Tedder, had spotted a mothership, a Japanese mothership, off the coastline of Wamberal, and he watched it, and then he saw a Midget Submarine come from the mothership. So he reported this directly to my father, who was the chief observer. In turn, my father reported it to Macquarie Street, to the plotting station. They said it was heading south. This Midget Submarine was heading south, and the reply from Macquarie Street was to my father, "You're drunk, forget it." And my father was most irate. He said, "That is quite wrong. I'm a teetotaler to start with." And he said, "They are there and we can see them. We're observing them now." So they took it as a bit of a laugh and did not do a thing about it. So the next day, the mothership was still there, and he yet again reported it for the second time in the morning. And so they said they wouldn't be coming. And my father was so irate, he said, "Well, if you don't come, they're heading towards Sydney, the Midget sub, and if you don't come, I'm closing the spotting post and we will not be doing this again anymore." So, it was too late, because the subs that night hit Sydney. And so the following day, after all that disaster, the 3 men in suits came to the Wamberal spotting post. The logbooks, all logbooks with all the reports about the spotting of the submarines and the Midget Sub. I think we only saw one, possibly two, but there was definitely one that they actually saw leaving the mothership. So that was what happened on that fateful time at Wombrall that was ignored. And we had never heard another word about it. Different reports, we've seen different reports and stories, but nothing has really been said about the time at Wombrall. And when my father passed away, I went to look for a logbook, hoping that I might find something that Dad had kept, but there was only a blank page of a logbook left, and that was all, and we didn't see any more of what had happened. So that's my story about the Japanese subs coming to Wombrall.
When you mentioned a mothership, are you saying a mother submarine or a mother ship?
A mother submarine. It was a mother submarine, and the midget ship came from that.
And the day in question you're talking about, is that the day when the submarines entered Sydney Harbour and the Kuttabul sunk?
No, the first time they were spotted was a day and a half before the midget sub came into Sydney. But that story has never been told. And I'm the last. No, I'm not the last, because James Tedder is still alive. But unfortunately, he's old and he knows about it, but he hasn't told the story himself. He knows he should, but he's too old now. He's in his 80s, and I'm the last one that actually knew about it, so I'm telling my story now.
And what was your brother's involvement?
My brother was, he just was a member of the spotting post. He was the youngest spotter. At the age of 15 he started spotting, and they all had to do their exams and tests, and he passed it at the age of 15. So he just was one of many of the volunteers that manned the spotting post. And they had a system where they had a steel line with a great steel hoop right around the line, and when any emergency happened, as it did from time to time, planes getting lost and not being able to find their way to the airports, whoever was on the spotting post would ask permission to hit this steel rim. And I spoke to somebody yesterday at my brother's funeral about how could he hear the noise from the ring that was hit with a steel rod to get all the spotters back to the spotting post so as they could arrange for whatever had to happen. And he said yes, he lived 1.5 miles away, and providing the prevailing wind was right, he could hear it. And so a lot of the spotters lived within, I suppose, about 1 mile post, and they used to come in. There were times when there were 5 doctors that went missing on a yacht, and many times they had to go and try and rescue these people, but in the case of the 5 doctors, they all drowned, and they rescued one body off the rocks at Avoca, and then the police came and took over.